Hey guys, so let's have a quick discussion re Murph next Monday. So obviously it's programmed in just to let you know the kind of backside of it. On the Tuesday, you've got an active recovery session. So if any of the members are kind of worried about their training week, hopefully we can kind of limit the impact by what they're going to do on the Tuesday. But let's not worry about that. Let's worry about Murph. So I think most of you will know what it is. As a group of coaches, try and get everyone to understand the story behind Murph and how hero workouts and named workouts are so important within each and everyone's community. That kind of has an added sense of kind of intrigue to it and then makes people more bought into it. Good way to do that is to possibly get people to watch the movie Lone Survivor. That's a great thing to maybe watch on the Saturday or the Sunday, get all your members amped up before the Monday. But let's cut to the chase. So it's a mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, and then run another mile. That's the unpartitioned version of it. Okay, there is a partitioned variation where it's run a mile either end, and then you have 20 rounds of Cindy, which is 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats. Let's just look at those two kind of RX volumes and talk about the difference between the two, who should be doing one, who should be doing the other one. So, unpartitioned is more of a muscular endurance style fatigued workout. Obviously, you spend a huge amount of time on just one movement, and that can be a tough variation for people to follow through. The other variation that you have, the partitioned variation, limits the amount of muscular endurance and fatigue that you may encounter. Still doesn't completely eradicate it, there's a lot of volume there. But what it does do is it increases the intensity of your workout. What I mean by that is there's less excuse, there's less breakdown in movement to movement because you're constantly cycling around those variations. So when you're having your discussion with your members about what variation they should be doing, if you have someone who's maybe an aerobic junkie and they need to work on their muscular endurance, maybe put them on the unpartitioned variation. If you have someone on the flip side of that, have them work on their partitioned variation so their aerobic endurance is tested to the absolute max. So those are the two variations that you can complete as prescribed. And then more realistically, we need to be having the conversation about how we're going to go about scaling our workout and who should and who shouldn't. So we've got half Murph, which is exactly what it says on the tin. It's an 800-meter run at the start and the finish. And then we've got half the volume as we work through 50, 100, and then 150. Still a tough workout, still a workout that can get pretty difficult. So who should be doing half Murph? Someone who's potentially got all of the RX movements, but potentially not in volumes that allow us to do the RX. As a rough guide, I tend to use the Cindy workout as a yardstick. So Cindy is a 20-minute AMRAP, 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats. The reason I use that is it's more commonly done than Murph. And within that, realistically, for people to be RXing the volume, they should be looking at maybe 15 plus rounds of Cindy within a 20-minute window. When we first think about it, 15 plus rounds for the majority of us coaches potentially is not a difficult score, okay? But again, for some of our members that are on the fence, who have just learned pull-ups, who kind of slide under the radar of RX in most workouts in kind of lower volume situations, 15 plus rounds of Cindy is actually something that's quite a difficult task to get to, especially on the push-ups. So that's our maybe teeter-totter for someone on doing half Murph or maybe the full RX version. Now I understand there's a big grey area in between that. Some people might be thinking half Murph is not enough and the RX version is too much. Have a conversation with the members, find the best solution, and then you'll always learn off of it. I've done Murph quite a few times in lots of different variations, and I always find the right one is probably the one I did by the end of it. Now, scaling specific movements is kind of what we're going to talk about now. Our first one is let's have a look at the pull-up. A lot of members are not going to be able to complete the prerequisite volume on pull-ups. Maybe they don't have kipping, so on and so forth. You can do this strict. I would suggest that that's a really tough workout to go in strict. I'm tempted by doing strict myself. Then we've got the normal options would be banded pull-ups or potentially jumping pull-ups. We want to take those away. Okay, there's plenty of banded pull-ups in and around our programming, and also jumping pull-ups. And in the respect to the stimulus of this workout, they're not right for us. We should be using potentially a ring row or kind of an inverted row where we're using some of our body weight on the floor. Reason being, jumping pull-ups, obviously we've already run a mile, so we've got plenty of lower body stimulus already hit. And then on the banded pull-ups, the speed at which we're getting in and out of those is potentially a little bit too slow to keep that intensity nice and high. Because when we go banded, some people will hit a big set and then they're looking at 40 to 50 seconds worth of rest. We all know with Murph, 3 to 5 repetitions tends to be our go-to towards the end of our bracketed movement. So if we're doing 3 to 5 pull-ups and then having to get all the way out and then wanting to get back in within 5 to 10 seconds, that can become a bit of an issue. Hopefully that's covered the pull-up variation. Hopefully we'll go to ring rows if we need to. And again, you can still do half Murph with half the volume on the ring rows. Set a standard on them. So underneath the rings, you can have your toes. If you want to make it more challenging, say someone is coming back from a shoulder injury, they're not keen to hang off the pull-up bar, or they don't want to be kipping and the strict pull-up is not working for them, have them slide their feet further under, but whatever standard they choose for their first rep needs to be maintained. So what we don't want to see is something called regressive scaling within a workout. What I'm talking about there is they start with a tough standard, and then every time that gets hard, they're making it easier, easier, and easier. The reason the body's telling you to stop is it's your body's way of saying, don't do any more, it's going to cause a lot of damage. And regressive scaling is one of those things that causes a huge amount of breakdown in the muscle, and obviously CrossFit's taboo word, old rhabdo. All right. That's the ring row or the pull-up variation covered. The push-up. Now, the push-ups, if we've done Cindy, if we've done Murph, this is the crux of the workout. The pull-ups are actually not too difficult to navigate in terms of their volume and the speed at which you get through them. For 100 pull-ups, you're probably looking at something that takes around about 5 to 10 minutes, okay, even with the vest on. The push-ups, on the other hand, 200 of these bad boys, your first set of push-ups is probably going to be between 3 to 8 repetitions. No one's going to be going down and doing 10 plus reps and then being able to maintain that. So set that standard for your coaches, okay? Set it for the members as well. Let them know that they're going to be doing small sets from the start, all right? In terms of range of motion, be strict on it, okay? Chest and thighs touching the ground, nice strong lockout at the top. If we need to go to some kind of scaling option, it'll be a kneeling push-up, or we can get our hands on a box, change the angle, and then hit a box push-up. Other things to think about here when we're going through, just keep that standard nice and tight. Don't let those hands creep out too far. As a general rule, get that thumb close to the chest. Air squats, another standard-based exercise, making sure that you're hitting full range of motion. Have people test run that in the warm-up. If you want to implement a med ball into the position to help you sit and hit your range of motion, you can do. I find weight plates stacked up are a better option, so they're not bouncing off of the med ball, but if that's all that you have at your disposal, that's all that you should be using. Okay, another standard that comes up frequently on high volume air squats is not standing up fully at the top. Make sure your member gets their hips all the way through and they're opening their chest up at the top. No length forward at the top. All right. Then we're into our 1 mile run, again, getting people moving. A scale for the run would be to provide the equivalent distance on a machine. So 1600 meters on the rower or the ski. If you're on a bike, you'll look to double the distance. Okay, so 3.2K. That's the overall crux of how we should be scaling the workout, and then also potentially the Cindy variation as limiting ourselves. For any new members who are pretty intimidated by this workout, what they should do is they should just jump in and hit that half Murph and then kind of get themselves set, and then maybe the next time they attempt, which could be later on in the year or a year from that date, then they can look at progressing. But we want everyone to come away feeling like they've had a great workout. Ultimately, community element is key, and then having some fun. The last thing to mention on this is potentially how you run your class. I know everyone's slightly different. We've got a week until this, until Murph hits. To give you an idea on what we've done for our classes, because the time cap is roughly an hour to an hour and 15 minutes is where most people kind of come in, is run classes on the 90 minutes. So rather than running back-to-back hours, for instance, we'll run a class at 8 a.m. on that bank holiday, then the next class would be 9:30. So that gives us 15 minutes to warm someone up, an hour and potentially 15 minutes to get the workout done, and then that allows the next class to then roll in. Because the last thing you want is a coach on a bank holiday Monday to have back-to-back hour classes, and then they've got an hour's time cap, but then no time to warm them up. So spacing them out, potentially increasing the size of your class, so then you have big groups, because again, one of the last things you want is to be you and 2 other members doing Murph in a class at midday on that Monday and be struggling when they could have fitted in that earlier class. So there's a couple of little hints and tips there. If you have some questions off the back of this, please just reply back in and let us know. But good luck, share your success stories, and we'll see you on the other side.